It's May 1st, 2022, the beginning of a brand new month. Tomorrow, markets will open. It will be a brand new day, brand new month. And I have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. Are we going to see the buyers come back? Will we see market surge, or will it be another rough day? I have no idea. I would have to assume that somehow, some way, they're going to pump these markets up. And so I would not be surprised if that happens tomorrow, but who knows? We are in uncharted territory. And as I was out this weekend in the Palm Springs area, just looking at all these new homes being built, and many of these builders cannot get appliances, they cannot get roofing material, they cannot finish these homes. And every day that goes by that these homes are not finished, mortgage rates continue to go up, inflation goes up, and consumer debt, the people who are buying these homes, their debt goes up also, making it much more difficult now to find a qualified buyer to buy up all these new homes that are being built. And it's going to be very, very interesting to see how this summer plays out with all these new homes. And many of you probably live in areas where you're seeing brand new developments, brand new homes. And you got to be asking yourself, are they going to be able to sell all these homes? You know, one thing we don't talk much about is how much debt people are now acquiring and how that's going to affect these mortgage applications. And if people can get a loan or not. If they're carrying too much debt, they have too much debt, they're not going to get approved for a loan. Another thing that a lot of people are not taking into account and don't seem to understand is when you have wages, working wages going up 3, 4, 5% a year, but you have home prices going up 20% a year, something must give. And what will give will be home prices. And every day that goes by, I see a lot of houses out here under construction, and they're just sitting. They're not getting material, they're not getting done. And in the meantime, who is going to buy these homes when rates hit 6%, 7%? And remember, you're getting 5.4% today if you have perfect credit, 20% down, your debt ratio is correct. Otherwise, you're paying 7.5%. Who can do this right now? So it's going to be a very, very interesting summer to really witness this play out and what happens during the fall. I believe this is going to just continue to get worse month over month. A couple articles I want to share today. And please feel free to comment down below with what you're seeing in your areas as far as retail, vacancies, office vacancies, new construction, what's happening in your local real estate markets. The real estate bubble is beginning to lose air. There is no doubt about it. And it's going to be fascinating to see how fast this thing begins to accelerate and how many people begin to rush to the exits. And what about the BlackRocks, the Blackstones, the Vanguards, etc., who are watching what is happening right now going, hey, maybe we better start unloading some homes. What happens when this inventory begins to hit the market? We begin to see thousands of homes from these Wall Street institutions begin to throw tons of inventory on the market. What do you think that that means for prices? And we have to ask ourselves, who's going to buy up all these homes when people aren't working or their wages are being destroyed by inflation, or they just have too much debt to qualify, or they just have absolutely no money saved up to put down on a house? It's going to be interesting. I'll leave it at that. Charlie Munger says the Robinhood trading app is justly unraveling for disgusting practices. This on CNBC yesterday. These Robinhooders are going to be absolutely crushed. You know, it's funny how the pendulum is beginning to swing the opposite way. And people, I think, are beginning to get a little bit nervous that the party is coming to an end. But there's a lot of denial out there. There's a lot of people who are just hoping that this is temporary. But This thing's going down, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm not saying that tomorrow or this week the whole thing's going to crash, 5,000 points, that the Dow Jones is going to lose 50% this week. Not saying that. We're going to see things go up and we're going to see things come down. And it's going to be very volatile, but we're going to begin to see these markets come down more and more often, more violently, more consistently coming down. And sooner or later, people are going to realize it's time to get out. Who's going to buy this up? When people are running to the exits, who's buying falling knives? Who's going to buy these stocks? Who's going to buy these homes? Nobody wants to buy falling knives. Everybody's going to know on the sidelines that this is going to go much farther down, and they're going to wait while prices absolutely decelerate and just implode. It's pretty obvious that something like that was going to happen, Munger said. Robinhood does not charge users commission and generates a majority of its revenue from payment for order flow the back-end payment brokers receive for directing clients' trades to market. Now it's unraveling, and he says God is just. Now, I'm not a fan of Munger or Buffett, but look, he's right. Buffett's been very right about these markets being casinos and people not investing, they're gambling. That's a fact. People are looking for a quick buck. They're trying to make $5,000 on a gamble this week. And we've watched numerous Ponzi schemes take place. And really, this whole thing is a giant Ponzi scheme. And what they're worried about, and what every Ponzi scheme is worried about, is when people begin to stop buying into the Ponzi scheme. The Ponzi schemes need you and I to keep throwing in cash or capital. They need us to keep gambling. And when that flow of capital slows down, the Ponzi scheme begins to be exposed. And when it's exposed, people run for the exits. And the Ponzi scheme eventually folds. Now, I think we're beginning to see that happen right now. And of course, nobody will go to jail with this Ponzi scheme. But so many people are going to lose everything. And you know, I know people in these markets, you know people in these markets that may have millions of dollars tied up in these markets, and they're continuing to double down. And some of these people are in their 60s, their 70s, and what they don't realize is they're not going to get a second chance. There is no do-over. You know, if you're gambling and you're in your 20s, your 30s, you know, you can recover. You have time to recover. But just think about these individuals who are 60 plus years old in these markets. They're never coming back. Everything they have is tied up in these markets. They're gambling everything to make another 4 or 5%, 3%. They're taking an enormous risk for a few percent. And I think that a lot of these people are really going to regret what they're doing right now. You know, greed. Greed is a killer. Pigs get slaughtered, as they say, right? And there's just so much greed out there. Instead of taking some of your profits off the casino table and walking away, taking some of it, these people are taking everything, doubling down. It's a very, very scary time, and the carnage is going to be historic. Market Watch. More Americans are fretting over their finances compared to last year. Take a guess on what their main worry is. It's food and food prices. It said here, 48% said that their finances were deteriorating. This, according to Market Watch. People are very, very concerned now about the price of food and whether or not they're going to get food this summer with these shortages. I mean, you take a look at what's happening in Eastern Europe with this war and the amount of wheat and grains and corn that come out of that part of the world. It's going to have a catastrophic effect on food supplies throughout the globe. You know, you take into account floods, droughts. Like we're having a massive drought here in California, and there's been droughts throughout the country this year, and farmers are really, really worried. And then on top of that, you take into account equipment farmers not being able to get equipment to repair tractors, tires to put on tractors. And so, how close are we really to seeing something really disastrous here? And, as long as people can go to the grocery store and there is still food there, they don't worry. But they don't understand that, 72 hours, that stuff is completely wiped out. And if these trucks stop rolling, the farmers cannot plow fields and pick crops because they don't have the equipment or the parts to repair equipment. They don't have the tires. If the ships cannot be loaded with food in Ukraine or Russia, if rice can't be loaded in certain parts of the country and shipped throughout Asia, hundreds of millions of people are in jeopardy. We take everything for granted. America has gotten so spoiled. We take so much for granted. And when I was in Vegas last week, just looking at people, 2 plates of food in their hands, going back for more, leaving half the food on their plate, just wasting food. What a sin that is. That I'll tell you, if there's one thing that bothers me, it's when people waste food, especially meat or poultry or fish. These are animals, right? Animals that gave their life so you and I could eat, and then people just discard them, throw it away like it's no big deal. That is a complete sin. And there are people throughout the country that would give their left arm to have a meal today because they're starving. Just think about the hundreds of millions of people in the world that are starving, dying of starvation, and we just throw animals away like it's nothing. Complete sin. So, be thankful to God that you're eating today, that you have food, and whatever you do, do not waste your food. Remember, that animal gave its life so we could eat, and there are people out there dying because they don't have the opportunity or the comfort of having so much food like we do here in America. And this is why it's going to be so bad in America if we begin to really see shortages here and a food crisis, because we're not used to it. We're not used to being told no. We're not used to going somewhere and not being able to purchase food or what we want, or have a menu with 50 different items on it, have a credit card to just buy whatever we want to buy. We're just not used to none of this not being available. And we're just not prepared for it. I mean, we can't even put our phones down for 2 minutes. And when you look at the condition of people from eating all of this fast food, terrible food, and look, I'm guilty. I eat it sometimes too. I'm guilty. But there are people that eat it 7 days a week, feed their kids this garbage, and it is doing so much physical damage to their bodies. And how prepared are these people for tough times? You better get right with God. You better get your body in shape. You better get your security in order, and you better get your finances in order. You better get everything in order, ladies and gentlemen. We are not prepared for what is coming. Another article today from MarketWatch. The sudden large gains in mortgage rates have reduced the pool of eligible home buyers. Pending home sales fall amid rising mortgage rates. Again, this is going to be a big problem for multiple reasons. Inflation, wages not keeping up with the price of homes, mortgage rates skyrocketing, absolutely skyrocketing. They said we would not be at 5% on a 30-year until the end of summer. Well, here we are. We're almost at 5.5% in April. Here we are now in May. Could we see 6% this month? I think it's very, very possible that we will see the 30-year fix this month, quite possibly knocking at the door of 6%. And with all this happening, something must give. Something will break, ladies and gentlemen. And if you think this is going to be like 2008, I think it's going to be a little bit different. 2008, I mean, if we go back to 2008, we didn't have the type of debt that we have now. Interest rates were around 5 to 6%. Now it's the opposite. We're at nearly 0%, at $31 trillion of debt and climbing. The talk of World War III. And now we have inflation running at 8.5%, but we all know it's around 20%. So this is so much different than 2008. 2008. And on top of that, look at gas prices at about an all-time high right now. Shortages, supply disruptions, the list goes on and on. This is completely different than 2008. 2008, I think, would feel like a Sunday school picnic compared to what we're heading into right now. I really do. It's going to be bad. It's going to be really bad. A really interesting article I was reading last night on the hedge, and it's titled, $2 billion hedge fund loses nearly half after Carvana plummets 75% in 2022. Cass Investment Partners, a Westport-based hedge fund, found out without the Fed's 0% interest rates and indefinite QE, it takes more skill than just putting cash into high beta names like Carvana. And when you look at a company like Carvana, which has been absolutely demolished, how long are people going to pay $60,000, $70,000 for a car in a vending machine? Here's where we're at. This is the insanity, the twilight zone that we're in right now. People paying $60,000, $70,000 to buy a car sitting in a vending machine. How many of these hedge funds are going to exist without the Fed's help of 0% interest rates and massive QE as it's all coming to an end? What does this mean for so many hedge funds who didn't really need any skill? They just threw cash at these beta names, cash that they were borrowing for next to nothing. This is all changing, ladies and gentlemen. Get ready, buckle up. The U.S. destroyed trust. Jim Rickards says the world is turning to gold. Jim Rickards, no dummy. This guy worked for the central bank. He says the current crisis is not like 2008, nor is it like 1929. The new depression that has emerged is the worst economic crisis in history. And he says here that the Fed is tightening into weakness, that we're going to see interest rate hikes, no more tapering, quantitative tightening at a rapid rate. This is all going to cause the stock market to go way down, he says. If you're putting sanctions on dollars and kicking people out of dollar accounts, why would I want dollars? The U.S. has destroyed trust around the world, and this is why people are going to turn to the ultimate money, and that is gold. Rickard says the minimum gold price is $15,000 in the not so distant future. People might snicker, they might laugh. I think that we are much closer to something like this happening than most people believe. Take a look at what's happening with the ruble right now and how they are trying to back it with gold. Take a look at the deals that are being done with India, Saudi Arabia, Russia, China. A lot happening that while many people might be at the NFL draft this weekend or at a baseball game or watching a basketball game, there are big plays taking place behind the scenes that are going to affect you. They're going to affect myself. And you're preparing for it. I'm preparing for it. While most people are still playing video games and watching sports, these people are going to be the losers. They will be the victims of this collapse of the greatest depression mankind has ever seen. Gold is money, and it's the only form of money the world can agree on, Mr. Jim Rickards says. More inflation coming as we deal with supply chain disruptions and the China shutdown. Please comment down below. What do you think about the China shutdown? There's another article today. Is it a crisis? Is it a hiccup? We look at Shanghai being completely shut down, and there is no sign that this is going to let up anytime soon. So imports have slowed down, and materials are not reaching manufacturers, and many companies have had to shut down or are operating at severe constrained levels. And again, look at the builders. They can't get appliances, roofing materials, other types of building materials. They can't get them. And in the meantime, they are against the clock here, because every day that goes by, inflation is going to continue to creep up. Mortgage rates going to continue to go up. The average consumer will acquire more debt, and we're going to have less eligible buyers out there, home buyers, who can qualify for a loan. Many industrial, technology, and automotive companies with supplies in Shanghai and Krishan have halted operations. How can this be good for the U.S. economy? And I cannot believe every day watching these economists and consultants on these money channels telling you and I that the consumer's never been stronger, the consumer's deep with cash, the economy's booming, it's on fire. If that's true, why are we sitting at 0.25% interest rates right now? Why are they so reluctant to raise rates? Why have we waited this long? They're going to do it. There's no doubt about it. But why have they waited so long in such a booming economy, such a hot economy where the consumer is just flush with cash? Let's get it on. Let's get it on. Somebody's going to be right here. Somebody's going to be wrong. You know, people still tell you, they tell me that the consumer is doing well, that the economy is booming, everything's fine. We're going to find out. So in a booming economy where the consumer is flush with cash, and we have this growing economy, which I just looked at the GDP, negative 1.4, so we're not producing anything. But there are people who are delusional, believe that the economy is booming. If this is true, let's raise rates, let's get it going, let's normalize rates, let's get this going, and we're going to find out how strong the consumer is, and we're going to find out how strong the economy is. In fact, we're going to find out how strong the housing market really is with just minimal rates, and we're going to find out how strong the stock market is with very, very minimal rates. I guarantee you, once we hit 2%, it's probably going to be big trouble. We're probably going to be in a depression. So to all the people out there who keep telling me and telling all of you how great things are, we're going to find out as soon as they raise rates. Yeah, everything's great when there's tons of free money, all this QE, $9 trillion on the Fed's balance sheet, 0% interest rates, buying homes at 2.7%. I mean, let's get real here. Let's get real. Let's get rates where they need to be. Why do we have inflation if everything is so great? Maybe it's the $6 trillion that were pumped into these markets and handed over to people while they sat at home and played video games and bought big screen TVs and bought cars and bought Rolex watches. Now we have inflation, and we can't even be honest what the real inflation number is. They say 8.5, you know it's 20%. And I want to share this last article. We've been talking about this quite a bit. The average man rates his mental health. 6 in 10 rate their mental health as poor. 6 in 10 men say that they feel down. And reading this article, I think to myself, what is this going to look like when these markets implode, when the housing market blows up, when the bond market blows up, the stock market blows up, when people cannot get food at the store? If 60% of males right now feel down, how are you going to feel when your world is turned upside down? And this is why I said we better be working on our mental toughness right now. We better be preparing mentally for what is coming, ladies and gentlemen. We are mentally weak in this country. And look, as I've said many times before, I'm not my grandparents. I'm not tough like my grandparents. I admit that. I've gotten soft. I have a cell phone. I eat junk food from now and then. I've gotten soft. And what is this going to look like when these bubbles burst? Are we really prepared? We really, really need to get in a mental mindset right now and really work on that. And I'm trying. And I'm walking closer to God. I'm hit the gym today. I'm going to hit it again tomorrow. Just trying to get the body in shape. And and that's good for the mind too. When you're hitting the gym or you're doing something physical, it also toughens up your mind, but it puts you on a schedule. It makes you dedicate, like, I'm going to go to the gym today, or I'm going to go for a walk, or I'm going to go do a workout. I'm going to go ride my bike for 5 miles, whatever. Your mind, your mind is telling your body, you're going to do this. You're not going to back out. We're going to get on a schedule here. And so mentally you have to tell your body, we're going to the gym, today, tomorrow, the next day, and we're going to get this done. And we've got to be working on a tougher mental mindset. We've got to be tougher spiritually. We've got to be more prepared financially. We've got to be more prepared with our security. There are just things that we've got to be working on, because we are not prepared, ladies and gentlemen. We really aren't. We are not our grandparents. We are extremely soft. We are severely dependent on the system, our phones, the banks, the restaurants. Most of us really are not independent people detached from the system. And right now is the time to really be working on that. And I'm not saying that I'm going to be 100% detached from the system. I think that's impossible. But just knowing how to protect yourself, to be your own central bank, to be able to cook. How many people out there don't even know how to cook today? People barely can operate a microwave. They're so unprepared. And so many people, just don't even know how to cook a meal. These are things that we really need to be working on, and putting food away, putting water away, putting all types of gear away, a good pair of boots, trauma kit, vitamins, some protein, candles, matches, some propane, some firewood. Think about what you would need: extra clothes, extra socks, extra pet food. Make sure you're taking care of the animals. It goes on and on and on. And we need to be critically thinking right now outside of the box, and we need to really be working on the mind and getting this stronger. Because, people have watched so much television, so many bad movies, so much sports, that their mind is just polluted and it's weak. And this really needs to be strengthened up. And my best advice is walk closer to God. That's going to help. Start praying, and God will help you. I'm going to leave it there today. We'll see what happens tomorrow. Markets haven't opened up yet. They'll be opening up soon. So it'll be interesting to see what happens tonight. Going to be very interesting to see what happens tomorrow. I would not be surprised to see these markets bounce back tomorrow. But who knows? Let them bounce back. Great. That's fine. We know how this is going to end. Massive volatility is coming. Massive crashes are coming, in my opinion. Prepare, ladies and gentlemen. This thing, we could really be heading down into some real serious trouble here in 2022. Not even looking out to what's going to happen in 2023. I'd be very concerned about what is going to happen now in 2022. So get ready. God bless.